Now, Singapore Airlines has created aviation history by launching the world's longest passenger flight between Singapore and New York. The 19-hour non-stop flight has taken off from Changi Airport and is expected to land at Newark Liberty International Airport in the US within the next few hours, covering a distance of more than 9,500 miles. The journey will take approximately 18 hours and 25 minutes. Now, this is not the first time the airline has attempted this record. Back in 2004, Singapore Airlines had offered the same route, but services shut down because of low profits. This time, however, the airline is using a more fuel-efficient plane equipped with high-tech facilities that accommodate jet lag and atmospheric needs.
Hello guys, we're gonna be talking about flights from Singapore to New York and then back New York to Singapore. Direct flight by Singapore Airlines. I want to thank Vika from Spain. He actually took this picture here, flying from Spain to Dubai. This is Mount Everest, 1,250 miles away. He was able to take this picture while flying back from Dubai to Spain. Also want to thank Celino from Mexico. He does have his own channel on YouTube, and recently he was talking about my book, breaking down one of the flights, and we will talk about this again here. Okay, this is from his channel Zama. His name is Celino. It's a Spanish speaking channel. It says here, emergency landings prove flat earth. Okay, very interesting stuff. So let's get started to what we have today. We're here on Twitter, Flight Radar 24 Twitter page. This was actually published back in 2018. And thereof, the relaunch of the world's longest flight from Singapore to New York aboard the Singapore Air A350 ULR. And this is interesting here. It says, today's SQ22 won't be following the Great Circle route, which would take it over the pole, taking advantage of favorable winds to shorten the flights to about 17 hours. So they have here the globe Earth with their flight route, and we're going to be looking at this, take a close look at them, at these lines here. We'll be looking at all of these, okay? So let's go ahead and move on to another screen. Okay guys, let's take a close look here at these flights, both going from Singapore to New York and coming back. Number one here means going from Singapore to Newark Airport or New York. According to Flight Radar, the actual distance 16,584 kilometers. Okay, right here, number one. Remember, this number one here means this big number one here. So the distance, according to Flight Radar, 16,584 miles. Okay, it took 17 hours for them to complete this flight, as you see down here. Average flight time, actual flight time, about 16 hours and 50, so rounding up to 17 hours. Okay, this is the flight Singapore to New York. In miles, 10,304 miles, an average speed of 606 miles per hour. This Airbus A350-941, the average speed for this aircraft is around 650 miles per hour. Mach 85, 652 miles per hour. That's the average speed for this aircraft. So it flies from Singapore to Newark at speed in miles of 606 miles per hour or 975 kilometers per hour. It covers a distance of 16,584 kilometers or 10,304 miles in about 17 hours. Now remember, the Great Circle distance is 15,345 kilometers, which equals to 90,534 miles. If this plane was flying at 580 miles per hour, on the Great Circle route, it would make it in less time, in 15 minutes short, 16 hours 45 minutes, and flying at a lesser speed. Okay, but we will look at this later when we go to the Gleason's map. Let's now look at number 2. Number 2 is going from Newark or New York to Singapore. Actual distance between both places, according to Flight Radar, is 15,840 kilometers. So let's look at number 2 right here. Distance in kilometers, 15,840, and in miles, 9,842 miles. Okay, it also takes 17 hours according to number 2 right here. 17 hours, 10 minutes. Actual flight time, almost 18 hours actually. Flying at 579 miles per hour. So now that we have looked at this, let's look at the map here according to Flight Radar. So that's what they have, the routes. This is being the first one from Singapore to New York. It flies in this direction over Asia, most of Asia, crossing the Pacific Ocean, across over Alaska and then Canada to New York. Okay, that's the way coming from Singapore to New York. Going back, it goes the other way, it goes over Europe. Okay, this is SQ21, that's the flights going from New York to Singapore, going the other way. Right? So this is very important because this is where the polar jet streams right here. We're gonna look at this closely when we look at the Gleason's map. Some more facts about the flight. This is going from New York to Singapore according to Flight Radar. But when you are sitting on when you're looking at the sit back screen, they show going as if you were going over the pole, the Great Circle route. That's why I have told several times before that you cannot really trust the image being played in front of you when you're flying. You're not really flying the route. That's just like a movie, an animation. You're watching a movie when you're coming back, a make-believe movie that you are flying the route, but you're not really flying. You're not really flying a Great Circle route. That's where you're going right here. You can see clearly here that you're flying over India, when here you're not flying over India. Okay, but that's what I've been telling you since the beginning. The image that they play in front of you when you're flying is just an animation, just like watching a cartoon, just like watching a Disney movie. Okay, it's not the reality. This is again the Great Circle route, according to Flight Radar, even though they don't fly this route here. But we're gonna look now at these routes on the Flat Earth map and compare, and I'm going to be showing you guys what's going on. Here we have, according to the globe model and according to the Flat Earth map, there is a polar vortex right here in this middle, right here, the center of Earth, and we have the strong jet stream that goes around the polar vortex, going right here. So this is actually what's going on, but this makes no sense on the globe. I want to stress this out, how much this makes no sense at all on the globe, especially when you see this line here on the flat Earth. This is what makes sense on the flat Earth. This is how things really are, but I will let Jeremy explain this part of the globe here.
These winds, and this is why everyone who says that the southern flights proves the flat Earth, well, they've never looked at this jet stream coming through here. 164 kilometers an hour, 141, 211, 195, 160, 134. So you're talking about 100 miles per hour or more, helping these planes along. And then when they go back the other way, this flight takes so much longer but I think they just go up a little bit higher, because once you get up near 45,000, then you get a better route this way. That's interesting. It's usually not that strong. Oops. Well, that looks really dialed in. Look at that. But you can go this way now, see? And this is why this flight takes 14 hours going here. And I just want a real quick look back at the globe, because this looks all nice and orderly. Let's see how the globe makes any sense. And of course it doesn't. I mean, what sense would this make? Why would this kind of whipping be going around down here but not up here? Makes no sense. Zero. Can't be a ball. Keep fighting it, Globers. I mean, look at this. Aren't you embarrassed? It's embarrassing. Oh. I mean, it's going around the outside. It's not. Why wouldn't it do the same thing here? What could possibly happen to an Earth spinning this way? Number one. I mean, look which way the winds are going, folks. The winds are going this way. That's the way that the Earth spins. And the winds are going faster, red winds, faster than the Earth spins. Winds faster, Earth spin. Impossibilidad. It's impossible.
Remember, we have the jet stream, the polar vortex right here, and we have the jet streams going right in this direction right here. And this is what's going on. This flight, so they depart Singapore, comes over China, and gets on the jet stream right here. That's why I question the speed of that flight, because when it gets around here, it gains speed of over 200, probably around 200 miles. So from 580 goes to probably 780, 800 miles per hour.
But I want to start with this because this has just blown my mind in the last 24 hours. It happened yesterday. We talk about the jet stream all the time. I bring it up in my forecast, typically the separation between the cooler air to the north, the warmer air to the south. But what it is a river of air that's roughly at about 30,000 feet, where an airplane would also fly, cruising altitude of 30,000 feet. And that's where it gets its name from, the jet stream. And this weekend, specifically last night, we had a screaming jet stream that was over the Atlantic, and it was really speeding up planes with an impressive tailwind. So with a 260 mile per hour westerly in the jet stream, you had a tailwind that was pushing the airplane at a ground speed, and this is a record, as I understand it, of 865 miles per hour. People in the plane wouldn't have known any different, but from New York to London, that particular KLM flight only took 4 hours and 56 minutes. There were several flights yesterday that were arriving to Amsterdam, London, some hour and 20 minutes early. So when you're traveling the other direction, you can only imagine how much that would slow it down on a headwind, but this was the case yesterday. And if you've been on social media at all in the last 24 hours, interested in aviation weather or weather at all, then you've probably seen that floating around on the topics.
Makes us believe two things. One is that the distance between New York and Singapore is not 15,000 kilometers. It's around 17,000 or even 18,000 kilometers. So you can add 2 miles, probably another mile, 1,000 miles or 1,500 miles to 2,000 miles actually. The real distance between New York and Singapore, because this airplane is around here, it gains a speed of about 200 more miles per hour. And once it gets this speed, it flies all the way here and faster than it's stated. And same thing when it's going back.
A Virgin Atlantic flight from Los Angeles to London soared to 801 miles per hour on Monday evening, 35,000 feet over Pennsylvania. The Boeing 787-9 twin jet has flown at speeds up to 776 miles per hour in the past. The ordinary cruising speed of a Dreamliner is 561 miles per hour. But the jet stream provided tailwind to Virgin Atlantic flight and helped it to touch the speeds of 1,289 kilometers per hour. The jet stream is the high-altitude air current along which storms travel. The 250 millibar level generally tends toward 30,000 feet to 35,000 feet, the level at which the planes fly. The jet stream can have big implications on how quickly aircraft reach their destination.
You saw in the video just now that this plane, when it's flying from New York to Singapore or from Singapore to New York, takes advantage of the winds around here. So forget about great circles. Planes don't fly great circles, they fly according to the wind to help them over a flat earth. And this is what's happening, and as you see here, this arrow. And to better illustrate, I created another video. Let's see right now. This is a video of a walking conveyor belt in London. This is Heathrow Airport. I had to flip the image horizontally to match what I'm trying to explain here. This lady is walking over this conveyor belt. If she was not walking, she would be moving forwards regardless, but she gains speed when she walks on this conveyor belt, because the conveyor belt is moving forward, just like the winds on both arrows here. The winds are going forward 200 miles per hour, and the airplane gets on this jet stream and gain speed 200 miles per hour on top of the 600 miles per hour they're flying. So they fly at around 800 miles per hour. So if they're flying at 800 miles per hour and completing this flight in 17 to 18 hours, it means the distance is much greater, much bigger than they are telling us, and they cannot fly over the North Pole, as I have placed 1595 Mercator's map of this North Pole in the middle of this Gleason's map to illustrate why they can't really fly over the North Pole. Here you go, I'm gonna zoom in. I have placed this Mercator's 1595 map of the North Pole right here in the middle of the Gleason's map to illustrate why these planes really can't fly over the North Pole. Okay, we have Mount Meru right here, the Four Rivers, and all this land this is a no-fly zone. If you probably heard of no-fly zones, they have over Libya, sometimes over Iraq, and this is a no-fly zone. They cannot fly over this, and they know that, and they hide this truth from us, but they cannot really fly straight from New York to Singapore. They take advantage of the jet streams that go around right here from New York over Europe, and then from here they fly to Singapore at normal speed. But when they get here, probably just over Japan, around this area here, they get on the jet stream again, and they fly all the way almost to like over Canada, and then they go back to their normal speed again. So they fly at least 8,000 miles on the jet stream, gaining 200 miles per hour at a speed of at least 800 miles per hour. So this is what's going on with this flight SQ21 and SQ22. And I have written here on the Gleason's map Abyssal Plain, because if you watched my video about the flights to Sydney, from New York to Sydney, it's the very same concept. They go over here, there is another jet stream of wind going this direction, which I'm going to show. But let's focus on the Abyssal Plain right now. Let's go back to the previous image. Here we see the jet streams, as you see in real time. The jet streams going around the flat Earth. The purple arrows mean the both flights, SQ21 from New York to Singapore and SQ22 from Singapore to New York, going over the jet streams. And the red arrow shows Qantas flight SQ7879 going from New York to Sydney. That's why Alan Joyce came all the way from Sydney to New York to fly back, because they had to go over the jet stream that goes from New York, from that region to Sydney. They couldn't have done, they're still figuring out a way to come from Sydney to New York, but the best way was to go from New York to Sydney, because there is a jet stream going in that direction.
Thanks for making the time as you're about to hop on the plane, serving your more than 19 hours.
I've flown all the way to New York just to fly back to Sydney. So it's a big trip just for that flight. Yeah.
There is a jet stream going in that direction, but they don't have one coming from there. So that's why he flew from New York to Sydney and not the other way around. He had to come to New York to fly back. He stated in his news, in his interview, that he came all the way from Australia to fly back to Australia because they had to fly over the jet stream. Here you go, guys. I'm showing you the flat Earth map as it is here. And I want to stress the abyssal plain one more time, because all this area here is flat land, and we're gonna look at this in a few minutes. But this is the flight from New York on the jet stream going towards Singapore. Same thing coming from Singapore to New York. That's why they show that absurd lines on a ball Earth. Makes no sense. They cannot fly straight because this is the Mount Meru right here, the magnetic north. They cannot really just fly over here. This is directly under the throne of God. If you understand what I mean, they cannot really fly this region. So they go over. They fly along the jet stream. When I talk about they fly over, I really mean they fly along the jet stream. So that's what they do right here. They fly along the jet stream. And these abyssal planes show that the Earth cannot curve, okay, because it's all flat land around here.
There's a section of abyssal plain, a kind of flat-lying section. So now, here's the whole world ocean, and the color scheme is not quantified on here, but I can tell you basically what's going on. All the deep blue is abyssal plain, about 5 kilometers deep. And you see it a lot of places.
An abyssal plain is an underwater plain on the deep ocean floor, usually found at depths between 3,000 meters, 9,800 feet, and 6,000 meters, 20,000 feet. Lying generally between the foot of a continental rise and a mid-ocean ridge, abyssal plains cover more than 50% of the Earth's surface. They are among the flattest, smoothest and least explored regions on Earth.
So I have been wondering, since once in a while I come across some pilots claiming the Earth is a ball, that they are flying over a ball. And I never really thought about it. I have taught English, aviation English, to young guys that wanted to be pilots. And it never came across my mind that they were coming fresh out of high school, taking English, like advanced English or aviation English, and then they went straight from high school to aviation school. So requirements to be a pilot, you don't really need to have a bachelor's degree. Degree not required by FAA. Bachelor's degree recommended and required by some airlines. But according to one pilot that I was listening to, you just work your way up. A lot of them some companies like Delta or maybe United will require a bachelor's degree in any field. Like you can major in photography, or you can major in ceramics and still get a job because you have a college degree. But that's why I was wondering, why are these pilots claiming Earth to be a ball? No, they don't understand much about hydrology or geology. Like when I got my master's degree, I had to study hydrology, geology, meteorology, and geography, all that stuff, And this is very basic. We saw this in the other video about the abyssal plain, which is flat land. I'm going to play the video one more time.
There's a section of abyssal plain, a kind of flat-lying section. So now, here's the whole world ocean, and the color scheme is not quantified on here, but I can tell you basically what's going on. All the deep blue is abyssal plain, about 5 kilometers deep, and you see it a lot of places.
And here is where the professor says all this darker area here are flat, meaning it's flat land. Okay, so this cycle here, some of us learn in high school. You don't need to go to college to learn this. You know, the water evaporates, becomes rain, rain falls down, and water seeks its level, runs through through rivers and go to the seas, to the oceans. Okay, and the oceans fill up, and it's plain. Okay, it's plain, it's flat, because oceans are flat, and those are the abyssal plains right here. That's very basic. So when you hear a pilot saying the Earth is a ball, they fly over a wall, they probably don't know much, you know. They just learn the instruments and they do what they're told. They don't question. All right, some of them are just liars. Okay, so let's go back to our Singapore flight. Let's look at an example here of an impossibility of some pilots claim. Let's look at these flights like flying from Perth to Beijing, China. It basically goes upwards on a globe, following almost like a longitude line. It takes 12 hours to fly from Perth to Beijing. But remember, at the same time, Earth is rotating from left to right at a speed of 200,000 miles per hour. That means that in 12 hours, half of the globe will be on the other side. We will have flown 12 hours upwards and being moved from west to east for 12 hours sideways. All right, so that's an impossibility. Let's look how it looks like on the globe for real. Look at this animation right here. The flight is going sideways each hour at a faster speed than it's going forward, because remember, the Earth is moving sideways from west to east at 1,000 miles per hour, while the plane is flying at only 550 miles per hour forward. So the plane is really going faster sideways than moving forward, which is an impossibility. That's fantasy. This is make-believe. That's Disney cartoonish stuff. This is just one example of what would happen if Earth was really moving sideways at 1,000 miles per hour. This is an example of winds going at 900 miles per hour, and see what all the damage it makes. Just imagine if Earth was really spinning at 1,000 miles per hour.
Washington, D.C. A calm day suddenly turns violent.
The fastest wind ever recorded on Earth was about 300 miles an hour. And more typically, the very fast winds are, say, 200 or below. So 900 is quite a remarkable number.
But the winds on this frightening day are different because they keep coming.
900 miles an hour is supersonic, so there would be no warning in the White House. At 900 miles an hour, the windows immediately blow out. The inside of the White House increases in pressure, sort of like a balloon. The roof would immediately be blown away, explosively blown away. And the walls would then fail fairly quickly.
Okay guys, just want to make one more comment here before we close this video. As you know, countries have been flying their people out of China because of this coronavirus. Okay, so the Colombians were doing the same. This is the route to bring the Colombians from China. So they had to go to Korea. From Korea, they flew to Alaska. From Alaska to Missouri, from Missouri to Colombia. That was the route the flights took them from South Korea to the US. This is the route this is what should really happen if we lived on the globe. From Seoul, they should stop in Hawaii, from Hawaii to Bogota, Colombia. That should be the route if Earth were really a globe. But this is what's going on right here. Let's look on the flat Earth map. You will see what's going on. So, Alaska, Missouri, Colombia. This blue line shows the path of this airplane. They could never really have stopped in Hawaii because on the flat Earth map, Hawaii is way off. Okay, their way. No way. Okay, this is the reality right here. So that's why these flights fly this route right here. Okay, from Seoul to Alaska, they made a stop in Alaska somewhere. From Alaska, another stop in Missouri, from Missouri to Colombia. They flew a straight line on a flat, stationary Earth. Right, this is how the world is like. We live on a flat, stationary Earth. Earth was never a globe. Only the Freemasons and the liars, the Jesuit liars, preach this lie, and they have spread this lie all over the world. But the Earth is flat and stationary. You think you're flying over a ball-shaped Earth, but then...
Okay, so we've just had an announcement. We've got an emergency landing. We don't know what's going on, but we've told we've got an emergency landing.
You realize that an emergency landing changes your perception.
Terrified passengers snapped these pictures as the plane was forced to make an emergency landing.
Of the world we live in.
Breaking news, here is a live look at the San Francisco airport where a flight from Hawaii was forced to land because of a medical emergency involving a flight attendant.
Emergency landings prove we don't live on a spinning water ball Earth.
Flight AI-191 Mumbai to Newark has been diverted to Kazakhstan.
Doha to Chicago, emergency landing Moscow only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Hawaii to New York, emergency landing Seattle only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Bogota to Frankfurt, emergency landing Manchester, UK only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Abyssal plain all over the ocean floors. The sounds of thunder under the dome. The boundaries of Antarctica. The salt flats in Bolivia and the region of the plains in the Orinoco Basin are all irrefutable proofs that
the Earth is flat.